Good evening, and thanks again for the opportunity to continue this discussion about the possibility of expanding world language here in the district. This evening, I'd like to continue the discussion from last month and actually get more specific about a proposal for you to consider. I'd like to recognize that both Dr. Kloon and Mrs. Boyd are here this evening, principals from each of the middle schools, and they've participated extensively in the conversations and the preparation of the proposal. So, our agenda, just very briefly, I'd like to address the question of why. Why expand world language? Why Chinese and Latin? I'll share with you some student survey data and some of the requests historically that have been submitted by our students at the middle level and the high school level. We'll look at the middle school schedule to give you a sense of where language fits in specifically, and then talk about the specifics around this pilot we are proposing, including costs and when students will experience it, as well as some long-term range planning or thinking that we've also considered. So this was a pretty neat diagram we found today that helps us to recognize the prevalence of languages around the world. Mandarin stands out. Mandarin Chinese. English, if I had my pointer, is just lower right to it. Spanish straight across. If you look at that visual more closely, you'll see lots of the languages that we referenced. French and German are also there as green circles. Latin is there as well. So tonight is really about taking advantage of an opportunity. That's how we're looking at it. This is really exciting from our point of view and offers our students the chance to experience something different and, we believe, more modern as part of their learning. So we want to consider, or ask you to consider, shifting to include Chinese or Latin in exchange for German in 6th grade in the upcoming school year. And it has not been an easy plan to develop. I'll be very honest with you. There are a lot of details, and the idea that we are proposing to you that our students learn via an online mode makes it complicated and different for our students. We haven't had any individuals respond to the posting that Mr. Alabach has on our website for our Chinese teacher. So they're rare. There's been a lot of thinking, very thoughtful processes that have gone into the planning tonight. So we'll ask you, is it worth it? That's really for you to decide. We're excited about it, really excited about it. And we're interested to learn from our students, if they do have this chance in the upcoming year, what they think. They'll help us to know whether or not this is a good path to take or continue on. Okay. So, back in the fall of 2014, as part of our comprehensive planning process, we happened to incorporate these two questions into our student survey. Recall that we survey our community members, our parents, our staff. We also surveyed students. These were two questions. It just so happens that the majority of the respondents were middle school age students in our district. So the first, would you be interested in taking an online course? And the second, would you be interested in learning world languages other than those that we offer? And if so, which ones? So if you click, what I've done is I pulled from SurveyMonkey the responses, if you click again, Dr. Rogers, on the part of our students. To the first question, would you be interested in taking an online course? Of those different responses, it's a Likert scale type response, 58% of our students expressed some level of interest. Some were extremely interested, some were somewhat interested. So there's a range there. To the next question, where we asked them, if you had opportunities to learn other world languages, are you interested in that? And if so, which ones? Certainly, lots of response to those that they're familiar with and those that they appreciate right now. French, German, and Spanish. And you can see the percentage of students who would like to continue in those areas. We'll also note about 16% expressed an interest in Chinese and 27 or 28% in Latin. (23 to 24% of our students expressed an interest in learning another language, and there are comments there you can see from the students that responded. And they listed all sorts of languages. Oftentimes it was connected to their ethnicity or the culture, their family's heritage. So over the years, because I think there have been some questions about this, over the years there have been these requests in total on the part of our students. And this year we happen to be requesting a pause with German at the middle level in 6th and 7th grades because of 2 staff members who shifted, 2 of 3, who shifted out of those teaching positions or chose to leave the district. So if we look at some of the numbers focusing on the middle school, Spanish in 13, 14, French and German, and then look at 14, 15, French stays about the same, German decreases a little bit at the middle level, and then as we look to the upcoming year, a little bit more. Now, there are lots of different variables and reasons why students may elect a particular world language. This just happens to go along with the fact that we lost 2 of 3 staff members as well. The requests are down in German, hence the request to put a pause on German and try something different, to expand in a different direction. So that's some data based upon what our students have been electing over the past 3 years, including the upcoming year. So here's the proposal. The specifics of the proposal to you would request that 6th grade students would be offered the opportunity to participate in Chinese or Latin online during Viking block for a marking period to a trimester. West is going to rotate its 6th graders through Viking block over a marking period. East over a trimester. And some of that's due to the enrollment, the number of students that they're working with. So essentially, West students will participate for about 22 to 23 days, East for about 30. So there's a slight difference there in the number of days of Viking block they will have. But please. Yeah. So West will offer, during its Viking block, in each quarter, Spanish, French, Chinese or Latin, and art to all of its 6th graders. They will rotate through all 6th graders each of these 4 Viking block experiences. If you click again, and again, East has to add 2 more experiences because of the increased number of students. So they need places for their students. So they have opted for coding and drama as 2 additional experiences during that Viking block for their 6th graders. In 7th and 8th grades, with respect to world language, excuse me, we would propose what was originally proposed in the schedule, and that would be that 7th and 8th grade students would participate in world language 3 days out of the 6-day cycle all year. So every other day, all year, for 2 years, for 53 minutes each day versus 45 here at the high school, and conclude level 1 of Spanish or French. We recently started to offer coding to our middle school students as a language. It's growing in popularity very quickly. I think this year we have 137 students interested in coding as a language. We are not proposing to you to expand world language offerings to 7th and 8th grade students at this point, but really interested in learning from our 6th grade students and that group, how they receive this different world language. In 8th grade, because these students have already completed a half year of German as 7th graders. There are 70 of them, approximately. We are proposing to you and have incorporated into our proposal that these 8th graders be offered the chance to complete German Level 1 via an online mode with a PV teacher supervising, but that they be provided that opportunity so that they could head into the high school next year, should they choose, and enroll in or request German 2. So here are the costs. We're working with EduSeer right now with this particular proposal. That is the organization, the vendor that you approved for summer school, and it will appear on the agenda later this evening. We have also used that vendor as part of PD Virtual. So there are 475 6th graders currently. The cost would be about $140 each for a total of $66,000 to offer Chinese or Latin online to every 6th grader in the district. For those 70 German students, the cost is $480 or so, $479.50 for a full year course in German, for a total of $33,565. With the 2 staff members who have left our German staff, we have currently in the budget $94,942 and $84,941. So that total, the sum of those 2 numbers, represents what is currently in the budget as a result of their departure or leaving these positions. We are proposing to you, as part of this plan, these online modules for 6th grade students and those students in 8th grade that would like to finish their Level 1 German, and also the possibility of hiring a technology education teacher who could also support Viking Block, as well as some of the other experiences that our students or are growing in our middle schools for our students that involve technology resources. When we interviewed students prior to finalizing that middle school schedule, we learned from them that they, in turn, are very interested in robotics, in coding, in programming, in those sorts of things that occur as part of STEM activities that we've talked about. We are proposing to support that more in Viking Block and throughout the day with, instead of a German teacher, a technology education teacher. So, one teacher's salary would go to the online modules, and the other is being proposed to support a technology education teacher.
You want to do the half year?
Yes, I'm sorry, at the bottom, thank you, Dr. Rogers. At the bottom, I just wanted to share with the board, as part of our conversations, we also reviewed the possibility of our 8th graders who have had half year of German taking a half year module of online German to finish Level 1. And it's about half the price. It reduces that cost from $33,000 approximately to $16,000. We do have questions about that, wondering if that's the most optimal situation for them to learn the second half of German with a half year. So I wanted you to know that that has been part of our conversations and would decrease that cost in half. Right now, we are recommending the full year module, thinking that it puts them in the best position to be successful. But certainly, we should discuss that. Okay, so as I mentioned, thinking long term, we're really interested in learning from our students about this idea, this expansion, and the way in which it would occur for them, and would certainly consider continuing the opportunity into 7th and 8th grades. We would have to consider the budgeted resources necessary to do so, or finding a live teacher that can instruct face-to-face. I am aware of Latin teachers out there. I am not aware of too many Chinese teachers that are PA certified. So, We also need to think about that when our students are working online, whether it's with Chinese, Latin, or German, there needs to be a PD teacher in that room supervising, providing some oversight. So we're thinking very carefully about how we can be resourceful with individuals that have room in their schedule. Maybe instead of a duty, this becomes their assignment instead of a duty. In the case of a teacher with a very small class, can the classes be combined? We have a French class right now as an example of that. So again, trying to be very resourceful in having PD staff members available to supervise these students. And then we'd like to continue this expansion into the high school if it's something that's well received and supports our students. So this evening, I am requesting your consideration for approval to introduce a new language into our World Language Catalog, or those that we offer. And certainly that we are able to continue the search for a live teacher. We would like to receive your approval to have our students pilot learning Chinese or Latin if we can't find a teacher. And then certainly we'll monitor very closely how this works for our students. We do have some plans after this evening's meeting, and we know where you are as a board to communicate the information with parents of middle school students. And our principals are planning to incorporate this into their 6th grade orientation presentation on August 20th. And we would also like to schedule a meeting with 7th and 8th grade parents, which is yet to be scheduled. But we'd like to offer them the opportunity to discuss it as well or pose questions. So at this point, are there questions?
I got a million of them. I'm not sure I'm following a basic point, and I apologize because I missed last month's presentation, so maybe some of that was made clear. We are looking, if we could, we would like to hire a qualified Chinese teacher, but we would still do the course online?
No, if we're able to find a qualified teacher, we would not offer the course online.
Okay.
Right now, because we're struggling to do
Okay.
that.
That was the first thing I need cleared up. I have okay, let's say that we offer the Latin, and we have a student who takes 2 years of Latin. I don't know anyone. Latin is a very, very good language to have a basis on. There are a lot of fields that use a lot of Latin derivatives throughout. Law, for instance, medicine, lots of fields. It does not require someone who can speak it because it is not a spoken language today. It's a good language to introduce, but not as a spoken language. If a student were to take this option and then take another year of Latin, at that point they may want to move on to an actual language that they could speak with. And that is part of the whole idea of world languages, world communication. Would a student have the option then in 8th grade or 9th grade to go back and take the first level of one of the other languages that we offer that are speakable?
Yeah, I mean, yes.
So we offer German 1, French 1, and Spanish 1 at the high school?
No. This year, German 1 only had 8 students interested, so it was not incorporated into the schedule, but Spanish 1 and French 1 are.
Okay.
And I appreciate the point you've made about Latin, and we did talk a little bit about that last month as well. It's a classical language versus a modern language, so the goals or the outcomes for students are very different.
I would rather see Latin being offered as an English option
at
the high school, frankly.
Yeah, interesting point. Okay.
Can still ensure that they get the remainder of level 1 so that they have options moving into the high school. So that's the plan that we've mapped out. I think it's a viable solution based on where we are with the budget, with the current resources, and then maximizing what we have.
I would just concur. I think it's a creative proposal. We're really trying to maximize resources. We're trying to provide options for our students. That's part of the essence of a middle school experience. And I like the word pause that Dr. Russell used. I don't think that we are completely taking German off the table for all time to come, but I think we're capitalizing on a unique opportunity in a very creative way and offering something that we'd like to explore some more. I realize we're asking you to give us a vote of your vote in support of this option. I do think it's the right decision for middle level, and I really hope that you support this proposal. I realize there are complicated pieces to it, and obviously to the other question about East and West, certainly those are always ongoing concerns and issues, something that we definitely struggle with and do our very best to make sure that we're providing as comparable a program in both schools. It is not something that's simply glossed over.
Thank you.
In the presentation, often it said Chinese/Latin. If an online option is presented, is it truly Chinese or Latin, or is there going to be a decision? In other words, if you have sitting in the same room, 6 students doing Chinese and 6 doing Latin.
Actually, we could, now that you put it that way. We could do that. This evening, I wanted to leave that option open to you based upon some of the data that you were presented tonight. For example, if I go back to the student survey, at that point in time, with the students who responded to that survey, they expressed a greater interest in Latin. So I didn't want to just dismiss it because the Mandarin circle is the largest one on the world language visual. But yes, you're absolutely right. We could probably have both running and offer students the choice. Now, that's something we have to organize ourselves if we're going to allow students in 6th grade that option, either Chinese or Latin. But it's possible, yes.
And then the second question is, in your next steps, you mentioned that board approval. Is that have to be this evening or next week? When are you looking actually for that approval?
I am certainly fine with next week. I would not expect that this evening in the event the board would like to think about it for a week. I know that that's oftentimes the practice on the part of the board. Next week would be wonderful. That would be fine.
I think that helps. There's a lot of information presented. And I'm sitting here trying to go back through the slides myself. There's also a good percentage of the board not here. So I just want to make sure that when we do have that. But I also did know that timing is a challenge when it gets to be August and schedules. I see the principal saying, come on, we just want to get the scheduling up, please. So I think we appreciate that as well, but I think there's a lot to absorb here. I'm actually encouraged by the options. I've got mixed feedback from home from the students that hear about this, so we'll see how it shapes out. But thank you.
Mr. Bigelow.
Generally, I'm in favor of expanding the options, although I don't like there'll be some inequities between schools. I want to ask a question on that chart with the bubbles of the different language. I didn't quite understand, is that first language or is that taking into account people that speak multiple languages? What's the native speakers?
Yes, it's native speakers across the world.
So it would be perhaps a much different chart if it showed speakers.
Yes.
Because I don't know it would be that much majority for Chinese if it's multiple speakers. I also want to look briefly at the chart on the numbers with the dollar signs. I didn't quite understand what you're saying about German. If we can fast forward the chart to the cost. Yeah, can you just briefly explain what that is again?
Sure, absolutely. So the first box represents the number of Chinese or Latin courses. That's 6th grade students in our district currently for 15-16, 475. 275 of them are at East and 200 at West. So for them to participate in this module, whether it's Chinese or Latin, is $139.50 per student. And the total there of $66,263 is represented. if every single student participates. The number of German courses is based upon right now the requests at East and West on the part of 8th graders to continue German as an 8th grader and finish level 1. There are 70 to 72 of those students right now, and the cost would be $479.50 for a full year online module. So
Okay, so that was a full year. What was the 631 online module? That's a third?
yes, that's a third of the year, yes. Other questions? Yes.
Can you go to the long-range plan again, that slide? All right, go to the short-term plan, sorry. Next steps, there we go. There we go. When do you plan on getting that letter out? I'm just trying to think of that.
When you tell us,
When we
okay.
tell you,
Yeah,
okay?
because
Or Wednesday morning.
Yes, that letter is prepared, but contingent upon direction from the board to be finalized and sent out to parents. And we did not want to do that prematurely before we knew that you were comfortable with this decision and this opportunity to pilot.
Can we go back to the cost slide? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to do this all in my head. So the roughly 99,000 for those two line items is just the actual courseware, if you will. Correct?
Yes, that's the online learning experience for students. There is a teacher in there. There's a teacher of record, so to speak.
That's not included in those costs.
It's in there. That teacher is part of the cost. So that, for example, students are able to email a question or actually call the company if they have a question about what's happening.
There's an instructor based on who's providing the curriculum, okay? But there's also a PE teacher supervising that class that has a cost, correct?
Right. There is a teacher from our staff that needs to be assigned to oversee these students.
That's not included.
And that's not listed in those costs.
That is not listed in those costs. No. No.
Is that,
Because it's not an extra teacher.
so that would be covered through existing staff?
That is the plan. Yes.
And
Could
so we would add
note that
no
on
one?
this slide then?
Absolutely.
Because to me, that's a zero line item because we can use existing staff.
Yes.
Depending on what happens based on enrollment numbers in particular years, we might have to worry about staffing.
That's correct.
Again, we don't know what numbers do, but we know it does crazy things to schedules. And just the fact that we've accounted for it, that tells me that when we come back and visit this, we'll know that we're well. So, okay.
I'm happy to provide that clarification before it's posted. Other questions? Senator?
The students who have completed the first half of their German, and you've got a cost up there, which would be, at this point, this is a full year, 3 times a week, to do essentially a half year of coursework, because they already had the first half.
That's correct.
Is this course that they would have designed for that? Or would they in effect be reviewing for the first half?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, they would be reviewing a portion of what they learned last year. So this was a conservative proposal on the part of myself and the administration, worried that in the event this new way of learning is challenging, does it support our students to provide them the full course and actually learn from that? How much is actually review? How much was necessary for them to just sort of get the hang of learning in this way? But you're absolutely right. We did toss around the idea, and it's something that's why I indicated it on the slide for the board, that we can consider. Because technically, yes, they have participated. Now, in the past, our middle school students, to finish level 1, took the language every other day in 7th grade and then every day in 8th grade. So they had a little bit more time overall dedicated to learning level 1 than the students here at the high school. So those two things together right now have us proposing in this way.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm being really dense about this, but these 70 students, the way this is up there, would take it every other day for a full year. It would give them the second half of German 1, but the course that they are taking is actually the entire German 1. It's not structured for us.
That's correct. It is the entire German 1, that's right.
And the other option would be that they take it daily for half a year? Is that what you mentioned?
Well, actually, the other option would be that they would take a module that only covers half as much of the curriculum, the second half of the curriculum.
Okay. But over the course of a whole year?
Correct. So what we've learned so far from some of our students that experience or participate in SWAY is that they move pretty quickly, many of them, through these modules. So that was another consideration. The timing that it might take our students to learn via this mode was a question for us. We're not sure about that. But yes, the half-year module offers 90 sessions for our students versus 180, which is up there.
But if they would take that 90 over, what I was concerned when you talked about that was, I didn't think I wanted to see a student take a half-a-year program in the first half of their 8th grade year and then not touch it again until they went into high school and then started German 2 and they haven't had it for half a year. That was trying to understand what you meant by half a year.
Okay. And actually, our half a year is really the number of days. It's not literally the first semester or the second semester, so that's an important point. Other questions that we could address at this point? Yes.
Just one more comment. I have a real problem with labeling coding as a world language. It is not a language. Even though people communicate in a way in coding, it is not, again, a spoken language. It is not a language. When a student applies to a college and they are asked about what languages have you had, coding is not going to be an acceptable answer.
So we will certainly rethink that.
I mean,
Consider
coding
how
is
it's
valid. I'm not
categorized.
saying it's not valid, but to say it's a world language, it isn't.
Okay, and please, if you have additional questions, don't hesitate to let me know. I'd like to provide you with all of the information that you need as you consider this. Thank you for the opportunity.